Good morning everyone. I am Riya Sinha, your SST teacher. Today we are going to start our second chapter of geography, that is Inside Our Earth. In the previous class we have already discussed about the layers of the earth, in which we came to know about different layers which are present inside our earth, that is the crust, mantle and core. In the previous class also we tried to understand about these layers through with a kind of comparative study, like if you have ever worked around with peeling an onion, then you will see there are concentric rings. Similar to the structure of onion, you have the interior structure of the earth. So as you can see, there are different layers which are visible in an onion when you have a cross section. Similarly, inside our earth there are three major layers. The outermost layer is known as crust, next to the crust is the mantle, and the innermost is known as the core. Now look at your book and see the content whatever is given there. See, the first topic is given here, interior of the earth. Here the uppermost layer over the earth's surface is called the crust. Then after crust a layer comes which is known as mantle, and the innermost layer of the earth is called the core. Now we will discuss one by one about each layer of the earth. See, first of all we will discuss about the crust. The three which is known as the crust, the mantle and the core are further subdivided into two sections, that is the outer layer and the inner layer. So let's start the chapter. Here first layer is the crust. As we know, crust is the outermost layer. So when we have the outermost layer that is visible on the earth's surface, which consists of mountains, plateaus, plains, different kinds of landforms, itself is known as the crust. Now this crust can be of two types. Means we can classify crust into two types, as one which is continent or land masses, or the other which is ocean or oceanic floors. Now one that form at the ocean is predominantly silica and magnesium, that is Sima, and the other that forms the continents is silica and aluminium, that is Sial. At the continent you have much higher thickness, which is around 35 km, in contrast to ocean which is 5 km deep. However, despite it is 35 km and 5 km deep, as we have seen, crust is considered as the thinnest layer among the three layers, that is the crust, the mantle and the core. So we have crust that is thinnest of all, and the arrangement is like jigsaw puzzle. So it's kind of pieces fitted together one into the another, as you can see the model of a plate tectonic, and you have the arrangement of pieces which could be seen one after the other. So for example, under the continental drift theory and the plate tectonics, if we can see, it is usually considered as a kind of single landmass. So you have parts of South America that closely fits with the parts of Africa and so on and so far. So we have jigsaw puzzle arrangement which can be seen as the Earth's crust. Here in a book it is given about the main mineral constituent of the continental mass, which are silica and alumina. It is thus called SiAls, Si for silica and Al for alumina. Then the oceanic crust mainly consists of silica and magnesium. So it is therefore called SiMa, that is Si for silica and Ma for magnesium. Okay, now as I have said, the crust can be further subdivided into the upper crust and the lower crust. The boundary that separates the upper crust and the lower crust is known as Conrad boundary. And finally, between crust and mantle there is another layer of discontinuity. We call these Mahar discontinuity. Okay, then now we will start the next part, that is the mantle. So whenever we talk about mantle, again the first thing is the layer between the crust and the core. Between the crust and the core is known as the mantle. Again I am repeating it, listen to me carefully. The layer between the crust and the core is known as the mantle. Now mantle can be further subdivided as the upper mantle and the lower mantle. The boundary between upper mantle and the lower mantle is known as repetitive boundary. Now some basic characteristics of mantle is around 2900 km thick. It is about 85% by volume and 64% by mass of the total earth. It is mainly made up of iron and silicates. So the main component of mantle is iron and then you have silicates. Again there is a basic difference between upper mantle and the lower mantle. Upper mantle is liquid in its state and lower mantle is solid in state. Upper mantle is the main source of magma, which is main reason of volcanic activities which we used to see, which happens usually because of the movement of molten magma or movement of tectonic plates. So you all have basic structure of mantle. Now see the content given in a book. Just beneath the crust is the mantle, which extends up to a depth of 2900 km below the crust. Okay, so as we have seen the crust and the mantle, now we will discuss the core. Again we can divide the core into upper and lower core. Again upper and lower core is divided by a discontinuity which is known as Lemon discontinuity. Core is composed of knife, in which Ni stands for nickel and Fe stands for iron or ferrous. It has very high temperature and pressure. It has around 15% of Earth's volume and 32.5% of Earth's mass. As we move from the crust towards the core, the pressure and density increases at the center of the earth. See the content here given in a book. The innermost layer is the core with a radius of about 3500 kilometer. It is mainly made up of nickel and iron and is called knife. Ni for nickel and Fe for ferrous, that is iron. The central core has very high temperature and pressure. So today we are going to discuss next topic, that is rocks and minerals. Any natural mass of mineral matter that makes up the earth crust is called a rock. Rocks can be of different colors, size and texture. There are three major types of rocks. First is igneous, second is sedimentary, and third is metamorphic rocks. First we will talk about igneous rocks. The word igneous originated from the Latin word ignis, which means fire. When the molten magma cools, it becomes solid. Rocks thus formed are called igneous rocks. They are also called primary rocks. There are two types of igneous rocks. First is intrusive rocks and the other is extrusive rocks. Lava is actually fiery and molten magma coming out from the interior of the earth on its surface. When this molten lava comes on the earth's surface, it rapidly cools down and becomes solid. Rocks formed in such a way on the crust are called extrusive igneous rocks. They have a very fine-grained structure. For example, basalt. The Deccan Plateau is made up of basalt rocks. Sometimes the molten magma cools down deep inside the earth's crust. Solid rocks so formed are called intrusive igneous rocks. Since they cool down slowly, they form large grains. Granite is an example of such a rock. Grinding stones used to prepare paste or powder of spices and grains are made of granite. Second important type of rock is sedimentary rock. The word sedimentary originated from the Latin word sedimentum, which means settle down. Rocks roll down, crack and hit each other and are broken into small fragments. These smaller particles are called sediments. These sediments are transported and deposited by wind, water, etc. These loose sediments are compressed and hardened to form layers of rocks. And these type of rocks are called sedimentary rocks. For example, sandstone is made from grains of sand. These rocks may also contain fossils of plants and animals and other microorganisms that once lived on them. Now, third type of rock is metamorphic rock. The word metamorphic comes from a Greek word which means metamorphose, which means change of form. Igneous and sedimentary rocks can change into metamorphic rocks under great heat and pressure. For example, clay changes into slate and limestone into marble. Rocks are very useful to us. The hard rocks are used for making roads, houses and buildings. We use stones in many games, for example 7 stones, hopscotch, 5 stones, etc. And you will be surprised to know that one type of rock changes to another type under certain conditions in a cyclic manner. This process of transformation of the rock from one to another is known as rock cycle. We have already learnt when the molten magma cools, it solidifies to become igneous rock. These igneous rocks are broken down into small particles that are transported and deposited to form sedimentary rocks. When the igneous and sedimentary rocks are subjected to heat and pressure, they change into metamorphic rocks. The metamorphic rocks, which are still under great heat and pressure, melt down to form molten magma. This molten magma again can cool down and solidified into igneous rocks. Rocks are made up of different minerals. Minerals are naturally occurring substances which have certain physical properties and definite chemical compositions. They are very important to humankind. Some are used as fuels, for example coal, natural gas and petroleum. These are also used in industries like iron, aluminium, gold, etc., in medicine, in fertilizers, etc. So now I hope you all understood the chapter well. We have completed our revision of chapter number 2, means explanation part we have completed. We have to do exercise which we will do in the next class. So now I am going to give you homework in which some of the definitions are given. You all have to learn it. In the next class we will do exercise. We will revise exercises of this chapter. Till then, stay at home and stay safe. Thank you and have a nice day.